Heyo, creepy friends and weirdos, and welcome to the Strange Vibes Weird Fiction and Horror Podcast. We bring you tales of the mad, macabre, surreal, and darkly comedic every Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Veils between mortal and supernatural grow thin throughout April. Tonight's podcast pays tribute to Witches' Night, a spectacular event at the end of the month. The night of April 30th to May 1st takes an arcane place in European folklore, most famously known as Hexenacht, Witches' Night, or Walpurgisnacht. It's a time when the boundary between worlds is hazy. Good citizens of yore invoked charms and built protective bonfires as powerful supernatural forces increased through the month and rose to a mighty crescendo. One of the most famous works about Witches' Night comes from the German polymath Goethe. In a stanza from his lyric tale Faust, he writes, "Now to the Brocken the witches ride, the stubble is gold and the corn is green. There is the carnival crew to be seen, and Squire Euryalus will come to preside. So over the valley our company floats, with witches a farting on stinking old goats." This evening we have for you a terrific lineup of the weird and terrible. We start with a lyric song by A. Anthony Duran from his thrilling absurdist book, The Eerie Adventures of Liam and His Shadow 2. After that, a poem by Brian Terence about monsters in the darkness. And finally, the gripping tale Elder, written and narrated by Paul Radcliffe. And now, here's Anthony.
She's My Gothica by A. Anthony Duran. I never knew girls could invoke darkness with such flair. The planets have aligned and the werewolfness is in the air. Vampires stalk the streets under a moonlit night, hunting with a bloodlust in their eyes. You're giving me the creeps, making my skin crawl. Gazing deep into your piercing black eyes, I saw a melting pot ready to spill all over me. Embracing your touch, you made my eyes bleed. Pronounce your evil desires, for in the queen of night, I awe at her fires. A journey through the underworld makes her pertinacious. Bite marks on my neck, paralysis of the senses. You're everything I need and all I ever wanted. Casting spells of black magic, turning me wanton. She looks like she's dead and sleeps on a rack. A perfect girl to love for this necrophiliac. Pronounce your evil desires, for in the queen of night I worship her fires. She paints her face with the blood of crows. It masks the pain inside that we all know. Only those with the kiss of woe revive. Pronounce your evil desires, for in the queen of night I awe at her fires. Pronounce your evil desires, for in the queen of night I worship her fires. Salvation through damnation.
A. Anthony Duran is an absurdist fictionist and cartoonist. He's self-taught and currently publishing his series, The Eerie Adventures of Liam and His Shadow, with original artwork. Get it on Kobo, bookshop.org, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and more. Witches' Night takes place exactly 6 months after Halloween as a major European festival. It has deep roots in Germanic folklore, including that of Scandinavia, Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. According to legend, on the night of April 30th, witches gather on mountaintops, especially the Brocken in the North German Harz Mountains, to hold diabolical Sabbaths. The Brocken is not just any old witch's mountain. It has its own amazing spectre, a trick of the light near dusk and dawn, when an elongated human shadow cast onto fog or clouds gains a nimbus of colors around its head, adding to the magic. On Witches' Night, natural and supernatural worlds overlap, and arcane powers are at their strongest. The timing coincides with the transition from spring to summer, a period rich in architectural significance and nature worship. Pre-Christian witches in German tradition were visionaries, healers, and wise folk who knew how to get rid of evil spirits infesting the community, home, or body. Practices included using herbs, runes, and singing chants for protection and healing. Similar to nature entities like the ash tree woman Eschenfrau and the Ubergoddess Frau Holle, witches could also cast curses displaying both benevolent and malevolent aspects. Now here's Brian Terence with a poem fit for the occasion. Enjoy.
Monsters in the Darkness, written and narrated by Brian Terence. The drips of saliva sparkle in the light like diamonds. The light glistens on the razor-sharp teeth, the heat of the dragon's fiery breath, the ominous growl of the beast from deep beneath. The sound of the monster's body brushing against the furniture in the darkness beyond the light. The crunch of footsteps on gravel, the sound of breaking glass. A door slams, a car engine roars. The hurried steps, a gunshot. A woman screams. The snarl of a dog, the whimper of a child. The eagle soars. The monsters beyond the light move stealthily. All that can be heard is the clicking of their claws. Jewelry reflecting the light, creating dancing mosaics. The songs of whales, the crash of breaking waves, the roar of cannons from the broadside, the snap of pirate sails. The kraken lurks, its tentacles coiled over dead men's graves. The menace of the imagined monsters in the darkness beyond the light of the desk lamp. The thud, thud, thud of the horses' hooves, the clank of knights in armour, scabbards clattering as they ride. The clash of swords, the sounds of battle heard only at a distance. The cries of the wounded and the dying, friend and enemy lying side by side. The world beyond the lamp's light is a horror, worse for being heard but never seen. The singing of carols and the gasp of the circus crowds, ghosts at Christmas, the rattling of their spectral chains. With the rustle of parcels being opened, the gift revealed. Is it the snap of a cracker or a shot from a gun? A world of secret pains. The monsters from a Dickensian Christmas are men, not beasts, their fate forever sealed. A princess screams, all is not as it seems. The kiss awakens, true love reborn, spinning straw into gold and needles stab. Be careful of those uninvited witches, fear their scorn. The monsters in the darkness, beyond the light of the writer's desk lamp, entombed forever upon the page.
Brian writes a wide range of science fiction stories, both full novels and short stories, covering subjects such as humor, post-apocalyptic, space adventures, mysteries, paranormal, alien invasion, time travel, and robots. Some are humorous and others more poignant and thought-provoking. The Platdatura stratonium, Jimson weed, devil's trumpet, or thornapple, a hallucinogenic member of the nightshade family, is reputed to have supernatural powers. It's said to be used by witches to fly through the air, whether on spindles, brooms, goats, or a demonic rush of wind. Shapeshifters able to turn into wolves, ravens, cats, and hares. Witches could also cast the evil eye from a distance. The church emphasized these abilities, portraying witches as devil worshippers, erupting into wild and terrible revelry on Witches' Night. This instilled fear in the populace, but also added a layer of dark fascination to the Brocken event, drawing Hexennacht into popular culture even to the present day. Crop failure, famine, sickness, and poverty were blamed on witches and their minions, often evil elves. By the Middle Ages, witches were automatically connected to the Christian devil. By 1428 AD, Valais witch trials in Switzerland chronicled the first systematic European witch hunt. It lasted 8 years, causing the deaths of 367 people deemed to be witches or otherwise in league with the devil. Witches in folklore often have a penchant for devouring small children, a trait which developed as these hideous hags were used as Kinderschreck figures to frighten kids into good behavior or keep them from wandering off and getting lost in the woods. The next story is called Elder, and it has strong connections to folklore and superstition in Britain as well as the Germanic lands. Parallels also appear in Italy, France, the Baltic, and Slavic regions.
Elder, written and read by Paul Radcliffe. I am holding a black and white photograph. The figures in it are blurred. One of them is me, long ago and far away, as far as you are from yesterday. The photograph is a little blurred, the margins yellow, the edges creased. Memories fade, but I know it is Cumberland, and a village called Little Orbeck. The house is a tied cottage, though not a cottage in the honeysuckle, twining of ivy, skylarks overhead sense, but a tied dwelling for the farm worker who was my uncle. 4 windows set against a whitewashed wall. 2 women stand in the narrow rectangle of a doorway. Time and the distance from the camera have conspired to hide their faces. One of them is holding a baby that was me, the child that I was, held by my mother. A picture without its frame. I am the only one still living. Only the picture remains. Only the picture and what I saw one day, years later, close to that house. My uncle laboured outside in all weathers, and if there was one thing Cumberland knew about, it was weather. The rain seemed to go on for days and nights and afternoons especially. We would stay in that house for a couple of weeks because staying with rural relatives was the holiday option of little choice during my childhood. There were a couple of cousins, but they were away for the day or the weekend. Outside the house there was a wooden gate, and I can still hear it creaking. It led past a corrugated iron woodshed. It was not Narnia, no fauns, no stone lions coming to life, but it certainly had a sense of separation from the world, cosy in its brief shelter, and children live in their own world until too soon and too often it is snatched from them. The Cumbrian rain battering on a corrugated roof, it falls from a different sky entirely. I was sitting on a tree stump near the gap which served as an entry point. The firewood was stacked randomly. In the late afternoon, small glimpses of grey sky were peering through the tiny gaps in the roof. I was a city child, and all I saw was a scattered pile of logs and branches with damp patches of sawdust on the soil floor. If I had been told some of the branches were from an elder tree, it would have meant nothing to me. A tree was a tree. So I thought. There were some newer branches recently cut on top of the pile, and the rain fell more intensely, and outside the gap in the wall, it seemed to have a shimmering life of its own. My aunt came in breathless. More wood for the fire. She picked up an armful of the branches on top, muttered something about the weather and my Uncle Jeff being out in it, and went back to the house, carrying elder branches. Uncle Jeff had long secured his place in family legend, urban or otherwise. When he had been courting, as the word was then, she had, in the middle of some relatively low-key disagreement, wondered why he didn't get himself a proper job. The next day he had gone to the Royal Navy recruiting office and, with very little further discussion, joined the Royal Navy and spent 5 years as a stoker, and they had married when he was discharged. But now he was guiding a lurching, labouring tractor across a muddied field in driving rain, and as he later told us, bloody thing nearly tipped up on me. Would have put me right on my arse, that would. It would have been around the time my aunt was building up the kitchen fire. It was blazing up by the time we got home, and it was quieter than usual in the kitchen that night. My 2 girl cousins were with friends in the next village, a distance that seemed almost continental to a child. They had left in great excitement because, after discussions about the care, responsibilities, and the non-negotiable fact that it would sleep outside, they were bringing home a puppy. It was Cumbria, on the northern England-Scotland border, so the puppy, of course, would be a border collie. Might be some bloody use then, was Uncle Jeff's contribution to its pending arrival. I always liked that kitchen, the rain ever present, the lingering smell of baking bread, the patterned tablecloth, and the deep, deep dark. It stayed with me as it always has, just as that night's dream remained. I went up the stairs, leaving my aunt and uncle to the fading warmth of the fire. My room looked out from one of the upper windows in that old photograph. Nothing outside but the rain and the dark, distant outlines of the hills, the musty smell of the feathered pillow, different to home, the heavy blankets, and the voice as I dreamed, or even now, did I dream it? It hissed and murmured, more than once, in and out of sleep. Elder is the lady's tree. Burn it not, or cursed be ye. A strange voice, it did not wake me. It was a voice that hovered like the earth shimmering before the thunder rolls. It was not a warning, it was the passing of a sentence. It was a statement chilling in its certainty. Or cursed be ye. Cursed. I woke to the hissing of eggs in a cast iron pan. Charlie, the black and white cat and acknowledged ruler of all he surveyed, looked up with unconcealed indifference when I went into the kitchen. Uncle Jeff had long gone back to the fields. I had heard his tractor rumbling at some, to me, unholy hour of the morning. My auntie chattered away. The cousins would be back later that day, returning somehow across the trackless waste that led to the next village. Bringing that puppy, she said, and after a pause, "What do you think of that, Charlie?" Charlie left through the open kitchen door and out into a day where the rain, remarkably, had stopped. I didn't mention my dream because when you are a child you sometimes take great trouble to look as if you are an older child. I felt I would have sounded like a scared little town kid, frightened by the countryside in the dark and being away from home. I spent the morning wandering up the quiet road that ran through the village. There was a Victorian folly there. It was a darkened tower. My cousins always said it was a haunted castle, but that, I think, was for my benefit. A large farmhouse stood next to it, but the folly looked menacing, as if waiting at the end of a long muddy drive. It had been built for no known purpose, perhaps to impress a woman, as I wonder now. Maybe it was haunted. Beyond that, only the long road that led past a green, scum-covered duck pond, although I never saw any ducks. I turned around and walked slowly back, past barns and cowsheds. Occasionally a tractor would roll by. I don't remember much other traffic. And the sun, a pale Cumberland sun, was shining on us all. I got back to the house and pushed open the wooden gate. I went past the corrugated iron woodshed, not a place to be when the sun shone, but I did glance inside. It was very dark, just lost sunbeams trapped in spider webs that caught my attention briefly. The same voice hissed in my ear, the dream voice, the words there, and gone, no one to be seen, and cursed be ye. I hurried into the kitchen. My aunt was making cheese sandwiches. Charlie was asleep in a slowly shifting patch of sunlight. I heard a car draw closer. The engine stopped. My aunt said the girls had arrived, and I heard my cousins laughing and doors slamming closed. Charlie, irritated, lifted his head. My cousins fell into the room. They had a black and white border collie puppy. His name, as I soon learned, was Freddie. He was straining at a leash, his paws sliding on the floor. Charlie jumped onto the sofa, watching without approval. My cousins were Lucy and Kate, Lucy being slightly older and therefore having at least nominal charge of Freddie, but Freddie was a blur of black and white whose paws seemed too big, as do the paws of every puppy ever born. My aunt, well used to all animals, took little notice and placed a large enamel plate on the table. She pointed at Freddie and the door. Despite brief protest, Lucy opened it, untied the leash, and with no small degree of difficulty propelled Freddie outside. The ashes of the elder branches were a grey heap stirred slightly in the breeze when the door opened. Burn it not, or cursed be ye. Animals were for outside was one tenet amongst many of my aunt's life. Freddie whimpered and scratched briefly at the closed door, and we could hear him moving about. We could also hear the sound of a tractor in the distance, and sometimes the cry of birds. There were falcons somewhere in the skies, death slate grey, barely glimpsed by their prey before it ended. We finished the sandwiches. Leading to the door, perhaps 12 or 15 yards to the quiet road, was a loose gravel path bordered on one side by a tall hedge, the woodshed and the hedge privet and thorns, leading down to the road. To the right, the wooden gate opened to the paths, its continuation, and a large, overgrown vegetable garden. In the excitement of the new puppy, the mad rush up the path, neither Lucy nor Kate had closed it. It stood open, as it does in the photograph I'm holding. Not far away, the elder trees swayed imperceptibly. There was little wind that day. Lucy stepped out of the door, calling to Freddie, holding his leash. We heard the tractor, I suppose, but more importantly, we saw Freddie scampering among the hedges. These were thick and heavily overgrown, hiding our view of the opposite field across the road. We called. It can only have been for a few seconds, and Freddie lifted his head. We, all three of us, ran down the path. Lucy was ahead of us, the eldest. The tractor noise grew louder. Freddie ran towards us and Lucy ran into the road, and I heard a sound that I can never hear again, because those that uttered it are dead. A brief shrieking yelp from Freddie as he became blood and fur crushed by the tractor's wheels, and the truly awful sound of Lucy's head splitting open as she was whirled into the stone walls that bordered the garden, Kate screaming. Freddie was just alive, a spreading pool of blood and crushed gut and who knew what else. He managed to crawl a few inches, perhaps, before slumping back. It happened so quickly. The tractor engine was still running, the thump of the driver's muddy boots on the road, and Lucy, a broken puppet. A falcon circling, the wind now rising, and the elder stand of trees swaying, though not with the wind. And cursed be ye. There were no more holidays in Cumberland. Many years, though, I returned. The years of fierce weather had finally caught up with Uncle Jeff. That and farmer's lung. Spores from crops and animal feed had found their way into his lungs in the long years of exposure to weather. He had done less and less, and when he died it was probably a relief. I had travelled up to Cumberland for his funeral, held in a sad, damp churchyard in the next village. My aunt was there, and age had worked on her, as it does to us all. The funeral, like all funerals, was grey and thoughtful. In recent times, funerals become celebrations of life, but only for the mourners. The dead do not join in. Uncle Jeff was gone. My aunt did say one thing, though, something she'd heard years after from one of the older families in the village. Lucy's death had been a dreadful accident. Children are impetuous by nature. They do not think of danger. But long after Lucy had been buried in the same churchyard, an old lady had wondered if Uncle Jeff had ever taken wood from the elder stand, a mile or so away. Would he have asked? My aunt said she had laughed and asked who. It was common land. Asked the mother elder, the guardian spirit of the tree. The old woman was unsmiling, and my aunt had retorted that Jeff would not have asked permission. In pouring rain of a tree spirit, he would have laughed. No, perhaps not, said the old lady, whose name I forget now these years later, but better perhaps if he had. She would take her revenge for discourtesy. The old woman's family had lived many years in the village and were reclusive, though not to extremes, and were careful to acknowledge the older ways. And my aunt told me something else as the earth slowly settled Uncle Jeff into its darkness. He had brought a fresh load of wood and he had dumped it in its usual place in the woodshed, and he had taken some from the elder trees nearby. Not much good for burning, good for kindling, he had said, but it had burned. It had burned well enough in the end. I hugged my aunt and made my way to the station. The elder trees are still there, but no one from my aunt's village takes wood from them. It is not a matter of trespass or ownership or heritage. They just know, as children eventually know, that some things are better left undisturbed, and the rain still falls every day in Cumberland.
Paul Radcliffe is based in New Zealand. He has an aunt who lived in a haunted farmhouse in England. Haunted by a monk, yes really, which explains a lot. Paul works in emergency and is susceptible to hypnosis by cats. He explores the supernatural at its most disturbing, when it subtly overlaps the everyday and boundaries blur. He's worked in various places unlikely to be confused with holiday destinations. He grew up in Liverpool but missed the Beatles and is always eager to add to a growing collection of pirate jokes. For magical protection against evil, people would hang charms and perform rituals to guard against harmful energies as the powers of darkness increased through the month of April. They sprinkled wild rue, a toxic plant in large doses, braided red ribbons in the manes of horses, rubbed bonfire ashes on livestock and around the farm, entombed dead cats or spell bottles in the walls, and made sure they were safely home before dark. An iron knife buried at the front door is a common trick to prevent entry by malevolent entities. People also hung iron horseshoes to ward off hostile magic, and the tradition remains today. They carved 6-petal daisy wheels and other anti-evil marks such as the pentagram or 5-point star Drudenfuss or Drudesfoot in walls or beams. The Drude is a malevolent nocturnal spirit or demon whose name became synonymous with witch in many regions, although it's quite a different entity. Walpurgisnacht gradually became the dominant term for this sinister night of the witches, and was in common use by the 16th to 17th centuries. It's named after Saint Walpurga, an 8th century English missionary who became a protector against witchcraft and evil spirits. Her feast day on May 1st coincides with the traditional Hexennacht celebration, blending Christian and pagan elements. Saint Walpurga is believed to safeguard people from supernatural dangers, offering protection against witches and demons. This duality, fear of witches and hope for protection, helped shape the cultural significance of Walpurgisnacht. Into the tradition of scaring evil spirits with bonfires, costumes, and noise entered invocations for Walpurga's protection. But that's not all. Walpurga's miracle oil. Walpurga spent much time trying to convert German pagans to Christianity and passed away peacefully in the late 700s. About a century later, in 870, her relics were brought to Eichstätt, Bavaria, and she was declared a saint. German Catholics celebrate May 1st as Walpurga's Day of Canonization. Her bones were placed in a rocky niche, and it's said the tomb began to exude a miraculous therapeutic oil. Pilgrims continue to come by the thousands to visit her shrine and buy this oil. Because production of the substance is said to be by a Christian saint, the Church assures adherents it is not witchcraft. You can find exciting tales from Paul, Brian, Anthony, me, Sylvia, and more in Strange Vibes Weird Fiction Anthology Volume 1. If you're interested in contributing to our anthologies, just follow the link in the description. See you next time, friends, and until then, stay strange.